What is going on? It's Alex coming back at you with another video. And today it is mock draft Monday. So, of course, we're back with a 2-round mock draft. No trades, 2 rounds. Let's have some fun. We will be doing a trades mock draft this week. So, of course, stay tuned for that as well. So, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. I'm going to be posting videos almost every single day. So, let's get right into this. Let's have a good time. Let's have some fun. So, starting off with the number 1 overall selection. I'm going to throw a special twist into this one. I actually have a video with Broshmo up on Broshmo and Myles collab channel called Draft Bros that we did the same exact idea. Caleb Williams is going to return. He had 2 back-to-back not spectacular performances. And then he's going to be going up against the gauntlet. So he lost against Notre Dame. Then he's going to be going up against Washington and Oregon. It is going to be a tough season. He's going to say, screw it. My defense is not going to be able to hold up. I'm going to return. I'm going to prove my dominance when I don't have to face Michael Penix and Bo Nix. So it's going to be intriguing. But because of that, I'm going to toss Shedeur Sanders into this mock draft because he doesn't want to be number 2 to Caleb Williams. So he might end up being like number 3 or 4 in this draft. But it just adds another little nice twist because I've been promising y'all a no Caleb Williams mock draft. So let's do it. Let's have some fun. At pick number 1. So we're not going to do trades in this. Just keep that in mind. So we're going to go Marvin Harrison Jr. So I think that Marvin Harrison, if we're going to go based off of my board, which is right below my face, it is color-coded. Purple are generational, which is you see them once every 5 to 10 years. Very unique players. Blue is going to be blue chip. There you go. And then green, first round essentially. Yellow, second round, and so on. But Marvin Harrison Jr. is spectacular. He's just going to be one of those guys who wins at the next level, and he's a valued addition to this team. So I do believe that, if you are here at number 2, are you going to give Caleb Williams one shot for 2025 mock draft or 2025 draft? Maybe. I think that it would be good to shake it up and be able to give Justin another year in this situation. And Drake May is starting to put together more and more solid translatable tape. He's doing phenomenally. Still, the inconsistencies are there. He will just randomly miss very easy passes, which you can't do when you're trying to gain rhythm in the NFL. He's hitting those big plays, which is incredible. How translatable that is, I trust the translatable tape of being able to hit the shorter passes. And then, I'd honestly take a little bit more volatility on the deep passes and the big plays than, the regular ones that get your offense in rhythm. However, this is not to shame Drake May whatsoever. Looking at it right now, I'm going to pass on a quarterback for the Bears, and we are going to look at a couple other positions. And that primarily pertains to offensive tackle and edge rusher. So you could technically even go Brock Bowers here. I don't think Cole Kmet's the end-all be-all at tight end. You could use Brock Bowers as well in the slot. That'd be ridiculous to have Marvin Harrison Jr., DJ Moore, and Brock Bowers. At the same time, I feel like it's a little too many mouths to feed, too many cooks in the kitchen, so to speak. But it is fun to ponder nonetheless. Now, I do think that left tackle, Braxton Jones, he has plenty of value for sure. But I don't think he's a top 10 NFL tackle, and I think Olu Fashanu could be. I think your right tackle is secured. Why not secure the left tackle side? Edge rusher absolutely should be in consideration here. If you do end up not re-signing Jalen Johnson, you could, of course, go after a corner as well. But I think this edge rusher class has gotten better and better and deeper. Wide receiver class, even though it is extremely deep as well, I just think there is that top-end talent that can't even be touched by the other guys. I think that, the Bears are in a good spot right now. We're going to go Olu Fashanu. There's not too many solid left tackles in this class, and Olu is the best one, and he's still continuing to trend upwards. Pick number 3, again, Caleb Williams, not in this mock draft. Just got to put that out there for the people who are commenting it, who just missed it. Caleb Williams is not part of this mock draft. He returns to school after a tough year and wants to prove us all wrong, even though I still believe in him as one of the best, if not the best quarterback that I've ever studied coming out of college, because he's human. Humans make mistakes. They have bad games. He just had them back to back. To be fair, Arizona just whooped Washington State's ass. So, just got to put that out there. Arizona is a really good team. It's okay to struggle against that. Notre Dame's a very good team as well. They brought Ohio State down to like the wire. So again, he obviously made some stupid mistakes. Excited to see how he bounces back because it's going to be some tough competition. He could easily vault back up to like being 100% instead of 95% being the number one overall selection if he ends up bouncing back versus those two juggernauts. Pick number 3. So I think it's Drake May time. I honestly do. This team, it's just going to be in full rebuild mode. I think left tackle, if Olu were there, would be a little bit better of an option just because I don't think Garrett Bowles is going to want to be there. He already complained about being on a losing franchise, and I think it's just time to hit reset. Russ is not the issue, but he's getting older. He's not getting any cheaper. And this is just a way to say, hey, now we have 5 more years of cap space and development that we could do to bounce back. You need to have a high upside player in this division at the quarterback position. And you know what? Drake may not be fully consistent on those gimme plays, but this division is won by those big plays. So we're going to go Drake May. We're going to do it. He's been playing better and better this year. Got to give him credit where credit is due. He's earned a lot more respect from my end, and I'm very excited to see what he's going to be able to do. Pick number 4 for the Cardinals. I think we already know exactly how I feel about the Cardinals at this point. If Kool-Aid McKinstry's on the board, I'm going to take him. So, spoiler alert. But, this team overperforms for how awful it is on paper. I mean, I'm pretty sure, I don't even know if y'all had James Conner. I'm pretty sure he was out. He's been dealing with injuries for sure because, Dave Mercado is getting touches. That's not the best sign in the world. But I think wide receiver, if Michael Wilson stays healthy, you guys don't need a wide receiver. Just got to put that out there too. Interior offensive line is a deep class. You can get it 2nd, 3rd, maybe 4th round. Defensive line, interior defensive line is a huge need. And I do want to gauge where our next interior pick is going to be. It's before the Raiders. That's the ultimate check. And I do think that we'll be fine in terms of that regard. Bottom line, there's 2 top corners in this class. It's Kool-Aid and it's Kalen. Then you got some other guys who are making some very, very good claims as well for being at number 3. But Kool-Aid McKinstry, in my opinion, is still the number 1. He's let up 50 yards here, 50 yards there. But his overall talent and just the ability to essentially be Patrick Surtain 2.0 is going to be heavily coveted in the NFL. So, big fan of Kool-Aid McKinstry. Again, Caleb Williams returning to school. Pick number 5. So, New York, I mean, to be fair, y'all should have won that game last night. That was a defensive holding call or a PI. Doesn't really matter. Both would be pretty much half the distance to the goal and an automatic first down. Well, to be fair, you had no time on the clock either, so it would have just been a free play at the end. Regardless, maybe y'all can get something positive out of this. I think that y'all should trade Evan Neal to a team that needs a left tackle. I've already brought this up many times, and I'm going to do it tomorrow too in the trades mock draft. The Titans, they need a future at left tackle, and y'all can probably get a 3rd round pick, maybe an early 4th out of it. Why not? Why not? It's not like Evan Neal is providing any value to y'all right now anyways. So it's a way for y'all to hit the reset button. So just got to put that out there. And obviously this is no trades. Of course, player trades, that's something that could be up in the air. But for me, it's really down to Brock Bowers and Talise Fuaga. Now, a lot of y'all probably haven't heard of the name Talise Fuaga. You will. It's starting to be crept up in there. As a guy who I've been high on since the moment I watched him last year face against Tuli Tuipulotu, who's been balling out in the NFL. Really good edge rusher. So he's been there for the Chargers, doing a great job. Talise had a phenomenal game versus him, even as an extremely raw prospect. He's developed exponentially over the year. Again, you can look at my tackles video, then check that out as well. But he is the definition of pure upside and unbelievable talent at that. He's just super athlete. He pancakes dudes 24/7, and he has really solid mechanics. I cannot get mad at Talise Fuaga one bit. I had Brennan Jackson come on to my show. He actually had an exclusive interview at the end of my last 7-round mock, the mock that I did. So feel free to go check that out as well, where he brought up that Talise Fuaga was one of, if not the best tackle he went up against. And he's been able to train with guys like Abraham Lucas, who are very talented NFL tackles. I think that's the smart move for the Giants. But given the fact that Evan Neal is still there and we're not trading him away, I'm going to opt for a different route. And that different route is going to be Brock Bowers. He's not going to play tight end until Darren Waller gets hurt or gets too old. One of the two. Both are, legitimate concerns. But more importantly, he can play as a wide receiver. He plays on the boundary. And he is a elite slot weapon. You could just use him anywhere. You can use him on the boundary if you want as well. There's nothing wrong with using Brock Bowers in the best way possible, which is everywhere. That's why I have him listed as a weapon. It's not even a funny joke. Legitimately, I don't know where I can peg him. Pause. So I think that he has elite blocking, like one of the best blocking tight ends I've ever seen. And that was at 230. Now he's at 240. Moves better after the catch than he did last year. And he's a really good route runner. Ridiculous level talent right there with Brock Bowers. Should be going higher, honestly. Deserves to go higher. But, given the fact that Evan Neal is not dealt and he's going to continue to learn and grow, we are going to select Brock Bowers to be able to at least help out a little bit on the offensive side. Pick number 6. So I would definitely be in the market for a quarterback at this point, unfortunately. But I do think the quarterbacks there in round number 2 are going to be better. Again, no Caleb Williams. We're going to have Bo Nix, Michael Penix available at this point, most likely. I don't know if there's going to be a team later on that will draft Shadur. Very possible. But Quinn Ewers, KJ Jefferson, Joe Milton, Cam Ward had an awful week. Very unfortunate because I gave him a shout out in one of my most recent videos that is actually pending drop for Draft Bros. But there are options in a lot of them that could certainly work. Bo Nix and Michael Penix went at each other this week, though. It was a spectacle. It was beautiful. That was one of the best games I have ever seen. I love it. It was just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And it wasn't like a 70-70 game. The defenses are very good defenses. So it was a legitimate chess match with explosive plays. One of the best games I've ever seen. Both these guys vaulted themselves to be well worth considering in the top 10. And you know what? They're going to get taken here. Bo Nix at number 6. He is actually my number 3 QB still. Again, I'm waiting more with Joe Milton tape before I actually drop him. But, I only grade players at the quarterback, wide receiver, and cornerback / safety positions based on all 22 tape alone. I don't do it based off a normal game tape because I like to see exactly the whole rep, everything to factor in. And so Joe Milton may be graded out as my number 2 right now. And again, I watched him this year versus Florida. Still believe in him wholeheartedly. But I blend my board with realism. And realistically, Bo Nix and Michael Penix are well deserving of top 10 consideration. And you know what? They're going to be going back to back. Bo Nix offers a little bit more physical upside in terms of mobility and then less of an injury history. So Michael Penix, Bo Nix are going to be these selections here. Of course, the Vikings, Kirk Cousins giving the big middle finger by saying you're not going to trade me. So I don't think they're going to be here. But Michael Penix, he's going to be a damn good system fit. And with the weapons he has here, we see what he does there at Washington. Going to continue to do it in the NFL. Very excited for this. We do end up having 3 quarterbacks in the top 7. Of course, again, Caleb Williams is returning. Pick number 8. This is going to be Joe Alt. Y'all need a left tackle. You're going to get it. Joe Alt is going to be the selection here. He hasn't had the best year in the world. Just got to be 100% honest right there. He's slipped up here and there versus Louisville. He didn't do too well. JT Tuimoloau had his way somewhat with him. And I was really hoping Joe Alt would be the stonewall there. He's regressed back to what I'm honestly concerned with is he's a really consistent tackle, but he doesn't have the physical upside to be consistently dominant. I feel like he could be consistently effective, but not consistently dominant. So when you get a dominant edge rusher, I am a bit concerned as to his overall effectiveness. But overall, I do think that maybe that's a kick in the balls that he kind of needed. Everybody's crowning him as a top 10 player in the draft and, a guaranteed guy to be the best tackle. And all of a sudden, now the doubts are starting to come up. I'm very excited to see how he bounces back. So good for Joe Alt right there. Excited. I did forget to check his stats for this past week in terms of the pressures he's allowed. But, unless he let up a lot, I'm not really going to be crowning him for succeeding against USC that has no idea how to use their entire defense, but the offense operated very well. So I'm going to give Joe Alt a little bit of credit in that offensive operation. Pick number 9. Fortunately, Joe Alt would have been the best possible pick for this. Again, no trades. For me, I'm looking at somebody who could be one of the most versatile pieces in the game. I'm looking at Cooper DeJean here. He's somebody who could go as high as 9 or as low as like 32, just because like there's just certain systems I fully believe he'd work in. And this is one of them. He's listed as a corner. He can play corner. I don't think that I'd probably take him in the early third as a corner just for physical upside. He's just not the most maneuverable in all directions. But if he's able to play slot, or more importantly, safety, or a combination of the two, then he's going to be an absolute freak show. And PFF ranks him number 12, deservedly so. He is a very talented player. Other positions, I could take Talise Fuaga here. I really could, and just kick Zach Tom back to left tackle where he was playing in college. I'm not a huge fan of that idea. It would be the best return on investment, of course, because Talise just allowed one pressure that DJU freaking caused versus UCLA. So he stood his ground, and it's a little bit annoying that he's going to be featured in here. I already know it. I do think that is a position you could certainly go for. Oh, man, if we could trade back, I'd go Kingsley Suamontea in a heartbeat. But for me, I'm actually going... we'll go with the defensive pick because I do feel like it's a lot more realistic for the Packers. And we're going to go Cooper DeJean here. We will. His versatility is off the charts. Obviously, he plays up in Iowa, so he's used to those climates. And, he can have an instant impact on special teams, too. It's a bit of a reach, absolutely. But when was the last time we didn't say the Green Bay Packers reached on a player? If we have to, really grasp at straws, and that is something that we could say is they're not afraid to go after the player that they want, regardless of what we think. And Cooper DeJean at least will be an elite tier safety that can have that corner and special teams versatility. He is 6 foot, I think he's 6'2", 212 pounds, and he is absolutely a physical combine monster waiting to happen. So super excited to see what he tests out at. Number 10 overall, we have the Saints. Quarterbacks are all off the board. I don't know why I clicked on wide receiver. Quarterbacks are all off the board. Like Caleb Williams, useless. Just kidding. He went back to school. Again, we're projecting he's going back to school. This is not breaking news. Just adds a little bit of excitement to the mock draft. So, again, without the quarterbacks available, I don't really see anybody else being remotely worth it at this point. I do see them being in the mood for an edge rusher like Jared Verse Cam is starting to come up on the end of his tenure there. You could go another corner here with Kalen King because I do think you're going to get your best return on investment here. He is the number 2 corner in the class. He also is just really sticky in man coverage. He would fit the system perfectly. I am going to go Kalen King. A little bit short, but at 5'11", he still brings the oomph, and I really do love the physicality that he offers. And, he can potentially switch to safety if you want him to, but just overall, he's going to be a top-tier corner. He's a good corner. Maybe I don't believe in him as much as Joey Porter Jr., but, he is still right outside of my blue-chip players there at number 11. Speaking of 11, speaking of the Falcons, a team that could have used Kalen King, it's another reason for the Saints to say, you know what? I don't want you having a number 2 corner at all. This is a team that could use a quarterback. A lot of people will say Shedeur Sanders. I'm not going to fully disagree with you right there because, again, we are kind of quarterback limited. And Shedeur will most likely go in this draft. I'm trying to see where I would take him if there were no trades. Not going to lie. I don't know. You could get away with waiting. You could. But that's not very fun, is it? We do have Jared Verse on the board. He would be an excellent addition to this team. Now, I do know that y'all are looking more for that 270-pound frame, like a Leatu Latu. That's something that you could certainly wait on. There's no corner. Denzel Burke is up there for me to where I would feel comfortable potentially taking him at this spot if he continues to stay healthy because he's having actually a pretty damn good year. But I'm going to go the quarterback route because I don't know who's going to be there in round number 2. I don't, because I like J.J. McCarthy a lot. Shadur Sanders, where did they put him? Why am I tripping? Here. So you got Shadur and J.J. Like, both of those guys could operate this offense fairly well. I do think JJ's processor is a little bit better, and I think that he might be a better system fit. But there's something that comes with the name Sanders, and you're bringing it back to Atlanta. Just there's something that could be super special there. So Shadur ends up going home. He doesn't want to be number 2 to Caleb again. He just says, you know what? I'd rather be the number 4 QB taken in this class to my dad's franchise, which they have a damn good team, by the way. It is a quarterback away, so Shadur could totally unlock it. You have Kyle Pitts. You have Drake London. Like, there are legitimate pieces on this team, and they have a pretty solid O-line too, and Bijan Robinson. May I forget. So this is a team that Shadur could certainly unlock and really do prove that he does belong at this level. Pick number 12. Again, don't really get this quarterback need here. But regardless, we are going to be going after Jerzon Newton. Sorry to my Cardinals fans because they've been seeing this left, right, and center, but it's a selection group that's just too good to pass on. It really is. Pick number 13. I'd be in the mood to go Talise Fuaga here just because I don't like Braden Smith that much. But I'm a little bit biased in terms of that. I am going to look at the defensive backs right now. And, Denzel Burke has been performing phenomenally. I just don't think that he fits the overall profile that they're going to be looking for. It's not the Julius Brents build, right? You want someone who's going to be a little bit more physical. Dwight McLaughlin fits that. Of course, you could go and just continue developing your edge rushing group because there's some ballers on the board. But you know what? Y'all still don't have a legitimate slot, like a legitimate after the catch guy. Malik Neighbors and Emeka Ibuka are those type of guys. And we're going to go right down the road to Ohio State. You got Josh Downs in there. You got Emeka Ibuka. You have Michael Pittman. You have Alec Pierce. Like, that is going to be a legitimate group for success. You want someone who you can trust after the catch. And Emeka is going to be one of those dudes. Feel free to let me know what you think about that. Pick number 14. So, for this selection, it's really, is there a top tier DB available? Not really. So, I'm probably going to opt for defensive interior. I think that's the best way you can go about it. Like, it's one of the two positions. Chris Jenkins is going to be the better run defender. Leonard Taylor is going to be the better pass rusher. That's going to be totally up to you. To change things up, I think Chris Jenkins just will be a lot more of an enforcer, and he's going to be someone who eats up plenty of space. He is 305 pounds, but one of the best run defenders I've ever seen at the defensive interior spot. Like, really, really talented at getting to the ball. So, got to give credit where credit's due. He is a very talented player, and I'm excited for a little bit more tape to come out on him before I fully regrade him. But from the tape that's come out this year, he's continued to prove exactly what I thought he would be, which is a really good run defender, which unfortunately lost a little bit of his pass rushing ability when he gained 20 pounds. Pick number 15 for Washington. Again, Caleb Williams is returning. This is going to be Jared Verse. Shouldn't be on the board. Simply put, you guys will be needing to re-sign Montez Sweat. You'll need to re-sign Chase Young. If you don't get either of them, you're screwed. But this is at least a step in the right direction in case you don't get to bring back one of them. Even though you guys like to have a little bit more size, you are going to definitely be perfectly fine with Jared Verse. You'll find a role for him. He is spectacular, one of the best players in the class, my number 8 player on my board. Pick number 16, this is going to be Talise Fuaga, number 3 player in the draft class. He actually is graded out as my number 1 player, but positional value, name brand, yada yada. Who cares? It's number 3 versus number 1. No one actually cares that much. Again, gonna be very nice to whoever Karan is here because there's gonna be no Yale tape except for highlights. Just gonna be honest, not gonna study him until legitimate tape comes out on him or he goes to a Senior Bowl. I think he actually might be a true junior, so this dude very well might return. So we'll see if we'll actually get a Yale tackle in the first 3 rounds coming in the next year or so. But he's going to be my placeholder for my number 3 player in the draft, Talise Fuaga. Again, he ended up being able to hold up to the Murphy brothers, to Leatu Latu. He's standing up to what I thought he'd be. Very happy for that. Also, you give a middle finger to the Bengals here. who would absolutely have loved Talise Fuaga, would have been the best selection for them. Now, looking at other options, there is a legitimate reason to believe that wide receivers on their board. And Keon Coleman is a perfect replacement for T. Higgins. It's cheaper than T. Higgins, longer term than T. Higgins. And you just don't want to spend, what would that be? Pretty much, you're probably going to pay Jamar 30. You'd have to pay T. Higgins maybe 25. And then Joe, is he making like 55? So we'll just keep it round like that. That's roughly 110 million in just 3 positions. They're not going to, I don't think they're going to do that. And out of respect for T. Higgins, you don't want him to go to a franchise that is so cap strong that they're pretty much begging for guys to take to take cuts. So they're going to let T. Higgins respectfully walk. They're going to get Keon Coleman. I don't think either party is going to complain if this is the outcome. Pick number 18 for the Chargers. Leonard Taylor is my number 1 target for them, and he is available. So we're going with it. Defensive interior is a position that this team has just rarely ever had to an adequate level. And now you have someone who could be one of the best players on the field. So very excited for Leonard Taylor to get a fresh start out of the U and into LA. Pick number 19. Speaking of LA, we have the Rams. And I usually trade up for this player. He's my number 7 player in the draft. This is Dallas Turner. There's just nobody else who's remotely close to as valuable apart from Johnny Wilson. But I know I'm a little bit crazy about Johnny Wilson, thinking he's a generational player. I get it. But Dallas Turner, he is awesome. Like, he's first off, the number 1 or number 2 guy in the country in terms of overall pressures. I think he's the number 1. So, number 1 in pressures. Going up against good teams. These are not bum teams that he's going up against and getting a ton of pressures, right? Like, this is against Ole Miss. I'm forgetting the other team where he just racked up 8 or 9 pressures against. Like, he's racking up pressures against top tier teams. Maybe not like the best of the best, but he's still performing against teams that could challenge a lot of edge rushers. So he's statistically proving it. Obviously, my number 1 edge rusher coming into the year. I love his versatility. He does feel like a miniature Will Anderson. I got to give a shout out to Chris Braswell, who actually probably will make an appearance in this as well. His teammate is spectacular. Haven't officially graded him yet, but I mean, the whole entire time I was watching Dallas Turner, my eye was partially on Chris Braswell. So got to give that guy a shout out too. Pick number 20 for the Texans. So the Texans are sitting here. There's plenty of really, really enticing options. Now, I love defensive interior for this team. Already took pretty much all of those dudes. So unfortunately, that's not going to be an option. I don't think wide receiver is a major position of need. I think based on how Jaret Patterson's been playing, they don't need to go after a center, especially this early. There's not a good one that's this early. Linebacker, I just realized how crap this class was. I've been grading 24/7 on these freaking linebackers, and there's some pretty good sneaky guys in this class, but man, there's a lot of bums. I'm just going to be honest, and there's some of them that I have been criminally taking way too high and boosting their draft stock. So I got to take that one on the chin. Regardless, I'm thinking potentially you could be in the market for a safety. I think you're losing both of your backups, but I do think this team could be in the mood for a defensive back. It's not a bad idea. You can never have too many defensive backs. Edge rusher, the value is incredible right now for getting one. Again, you could actually just go after a wide receiver because you have so many really good ones available. One of the things that you don't fully have is a 6-foot+ deep threat who's really good after the catch. You have Tank Dell, who's going to be that nifty guy, but he's 165 and he's an elite route runner. Malik Neighbors is not the elite route runner. He's the elite deep threat. So I think this is the spot where I say you don't need it, but it is an addition to this team. Like John Mechie doesn't cover that. Xavier Hutchinson doesn't cover that. Nico Collins doesn't cover that, and neither does Tank Dell. So this is a new addition to the offense. And CJ does have a cannon of an arm, so he can hit the deep ball on Malik Neighbors. So, it's very good value at this point. I'm not fully sold on Malik as a holistic product, but in a role like this that suits him so well with a quarterback that can use him like this, absolutely I'm willing to spend that type of draft capital. But for a team that's scratching their heads like, man, I kind of just want one guy to solve my wide receiver 1 problem. that's maybe not the guy. You want him to be a complement with other receivers. Maybe he could be the number one, but you need him to be a complement in a system. He's not the end all be all. He is still phenomenal in the role that he will play. Pick number 21. So, man, we got to speed this up here. We got another whole round on our table here. So, I have heard rumors that wide receivers a position y'all could go after. Don't know if I'm going to go there just yet. But there's not many positions you need to go after at the same time. I don't think edge rusher is a big issue, even though there's some great dudes on the board, on some spectacular players on the board. And like on that note, I mean, I would go Leon, a lot of people go Leon to at this point. Job Robinson, I would totally be in the market for him to sit behind these guys, but I don't really see that big of a need. Now, I have seen safety in round one. I haven't been a huge fan of it, but at the same time, starting to understand there's just not very much that you need to go after. But we're gonna go after defensive interior here, and there's a plethora of really good options in this class. You got Tyleik Williams, Tavondre Sweat that can eat up the interior. Then you got nifty guys like Michael Hall, Makai Wingo, Brandon Dorless, Rukaroro. But then you have guys like Mason Smith, where God only knows where they should be. And he's the next defensive interior on my board. Technically, Rook is, but Rook's a weird hybrid. He's a weird edge defensive interior hybrid. I don't think he'll go this high just because he's a little bit on the light side and he kind of is built like an edge rusher. But you got Tyleik Williams here, and then I also have Mason Smith. So there you go. Spoiled a little bit of my board for y'all. I'm going to go Mason Smith. The thing is, Mason has shown so much potential. He looks a little bit out of shape, but that's what happens when you have a full year off after tearing an ACL, and then you gain 15 pounds. He still looks like almost pure muscle, but you can tell maybe he's a little bit out of shape. I want to see how he plays at the end of the year, but I have seen some, don't take this extremely lightly, some Jalen Carter-esque moves from him. Primarily his swim move, extremely quick, extremely fluid. And if he has a little bit more explosiveness, he can make the most of it and end up using that the way Jalen Carter does at the next level. Very strong in the upper body as well. Definitely an addition that I thoroughly believe the Seahawks should be in on. Pick number 22. So, again, left tackle, I do think, is my number one concern. You could try Amarius Mims at the left tackle spot, man, but for me, this guy's been getting better every single week he's been playing. Kingsley Suamataia, and he has that right tackle versatility. Again, kind of boring because at the same time, I have taken Kingsley before. You could end up passing on him, going a guy like maybe Jordan Morgan in the next round. But you might be lucky just to get Jordan Morgan next round. Like, very lucky. There's other teams that need left tackle. And for me, the other position I would target right now would be corner. I would go after Denzel Burke. Or I would go after not Max Melton, but the guy who I have right here in Dwight McLaughlin. I do think those guys are adequate for sure, but I'm going to wait to round 2 for corner. We're going to do it. Not interior, buddy boy. We are going to go after a left tackle here in Kingsley because also his right tackle versatility steps in case Terrence Steele gets injured. It helps. Pick number 23 would have been a great pick for the Steelers, but I promise I didn't do this on purpose. Amarius Mims is here. J.C. Latham's been performing better because he's been healthy, but Amarius Mims has an instant chemistry there with our beloved Broderick Jones. So when in doubt, just Georgia it out. That's what the Eagles are doing. That's what the Steelers need to be doing too. Pick number 24. This is going to be J.C. Latham. I mean, looking at the players who are still available, quick little recap on who's available. Rome Odunze has been playing very, very well. I should be getting access to more Washington All-22 within the next week. So I'm going to regrade him for sure because last year, I think he's taken a big step up from last year. I'll just put it that way. But I do think right tackle is the position this team is yet to get right once. And this is their great chance to be able to capture it. So we go tackle, leaving the Buccaneers, who honestly could have used J.C. Latham, to be in an interesting spot. But you know what? Shaq Barrett's getting old. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka is not a true edge one. And you have really good options here. And I mean really good options. And you could wait. Honestly, you could totally wait. End up getting Chris Braswell round 2. Be happy. Princely Umamilan, who has the number 2 pressure rate in the country. Could wait till round 2 for that. But if you want to swing for the fences and get potentially like a top 10 edge rusher in the NFL, let's go chop. Let's do it. And then you could have Shaq Barrett come back and coach this guy and hope they turns out a little bit better than Joe Tryon, who's still playing very well. But Joe Tryon Shoyinka kind of is similar to Chop Robinson, coming to the league with tons of potential and just didn't put it together. Praying Chop Robinson's a different story, and I think he will be. Pick number 26. So we still got guys like Cameron Kitchens on the board who are phenomenal players. We still have top tier corners on the board as well. And honestly, I kind of want to change it up a little bit. I'm going to go after formerly Urban Meyer's franchise with Ohio State. So maybe that might be some bad blood there. But regardless, it's a shitty connection. I know. Get off my ass about it. But Denzel Burke, he still deserves plenty of credit. This team could always use extra corners. And Denzel is very smart on his feet, very athletic. And again, he's still getting back to where he was on his true freshman year. So he's already proven the talent level. Pick number 27. So another team that could have used him. So it's a way of disarming your competitor. This is going to be Dwight McLaughlin, cornerback out of Arkansas. One of the best off-man corners I've ever seen. And when he gets into press coverage, it's just ridiculous. He needs to remain healthy, first off. That's number one. But number two, needs to go to a system that could really maximize his man skills. And I feel like that could be one of them. Speaking of a team that I think could use a corner one, but they're still performing very well without one, the Lions. This was a team I said if they hit the draft right, they could be Super Bowl competitors. Didn't think that they hit the draft correctly. Didn't have full faith in them because they didn't have a wide receiver, like an ex-Bill wide receiver. They didn't have a corner number one. They're still kicking ass. And that's pretty much down to coaching and just being able to create a system that maximizes your team. So great job on that front. I do think you could end up trying to bulk up with maybe an edge rusher like Braylon Trice and pairing him up with Aiden Hutchinson. Like, I do know Broshmo's and been a fan of that. But guess who's taking Rome Odunze in round number 1? This guy. Rome Odunze, giving you that boundary X receiver. Now you have an X, you have a Z, you have a slot. You have everything you need. Everything. So you have your big boundary in Rome. You have your extremely versatile route runner in Amon-Ra St. Brown. You have your deep threat in Jameson Williams. And then you have guys like Josh Reynolds who are really good to step in, especially when injury happens, which does apparently happen quite a bit, and be able to produce. That's a winning franchise right there. Now, again, I'm waiting before I make an official claim on Rome because the tape I saw last year, a little bit uninspiring, but this is one of the few guys who has an X build, and he's been performing very, very well. Pick number 29. So for this pick, I'm in the mood potentially for Graham Barton, but left tackle actually has been potentially an issue with Terran Armstead, one, not being healthy, but two, overall. I mean, you can't rely on him to be there in the long run. Some people think that he's played his last snap. That's not good. So I want to get somebody who has just overall operational efficiency. And that's Jordan Morgan. He's just consistent. He really is. Now, you can go to free agency again, but that is top dollar. So we're going to be going after Jordan Morgan here out of University of Arizona. Big fan of him overall. I don't think that he's a first rounder necessarily, but because his class is super thin on left tackle, he's one of those guys who can step in and play right away. And in a franchise like the Miami Dolphins, where Austin Jackson's been improving, by the way, so that's why I'm not even considering right tackle. But a team like the Dolphins that need day one impacts, this is a guy who can step in and exactly fill the role that's needed. So at pick number 30, we have the San Francisco 49ers. I've been a big fan of Graham Barton to the squad. Again, just boosting that overall offensive efficiency by increasing the talent of the offensive line. I also do think that you could get potentially Cameron Kitchens here, which is ridiculous. But, safety is a lower value position. I'm going to go back to the Graham Barton train. I am. Because I do think that the versatility of him as a center, guard, or tackle is key. And he actually went to Duke to play center. So he does have legitimate skills at center. And he can play guard. And he has played left tackle. But realistically, I think he's interior. But again, that versatility allows him to step in case of injury. That's very valued in a league where there's a ton of injuries. So good for Graham Barton there, sneaking in at the end. Pick number 31. So we already took the top tier wide receiver that would be the best fit for the Chiefs. I'm going Johnny Wilson here. Potentially could be the next Travis Kelce of this team, but I think he's a boundary wide receiver. Regardless, they're going to use him in every way possible. This guy's a jump catch threat and everything that you could probably want from a wide receiver. He has a, in quote, drop issue. He has actually had it over his career, unfortunately. But this year, he's only dropped 2 balls. That happened in week 1. Hasn't dropped a ball since. Just got to put that out there. So he's dropped as many balls as of before this week. Malik Neighbors. Malik had more targets, though. But I like Malik Neighbors in terms of his hands. So I'm saying, don't. Like, if we're going to try to uplift one dude for his hands, let's, at least be a little bit more fair. At pick number 32, I'm in the mood for some Cameron Kitchens here, some Braylon Trice. I think John Desai, with the way he rotates safeties and, even 3 safety sets, Cameron Kitchens is extremely valuable in this system. His ball hawk ability will certainly be a great payoff. And again, we're going to be targeting edge for this team for sure. At pick number 33, they've been looking for a wide receiver 1. Looking at the guys who are available, Troy Franklin he's a Panther. He is. Like, he just fits exactly what I'm looking for, especially for what Terrace Marshall Jr. was supposed to be. I think this team might very well sell off Terrace Marshall Jr. I honestly hope they sell him to the Lions, but that's a topic for another day. I'm going to go Troy Franklin here. I think edge rusher is still a very valuable position you could target, but this team has really put emphasis on helping out Bryce. Troy Franklin's incredible. He's been a top 32 player for me this whole time, and where is he at right now? Number 26. So, still spectacular overall. Big fan of him. Pick number 34 for the Bears. Interior offensive line, edge rusher. Those are the positions I really want to target for him. We've already went wide receiver and left tackle, and lo and behold, we got Braylon Trice, Leatu Latu here. Braylon Trice is my next edge rusher on my board, so I'm going to be going after him. Spectacular talent out of Washington. 270, 6'4", plays like he's about 250 in terms of his athleticism, but has the strength of 270, and is very, very smart. He has taken a little bit of a step back this year, but nonetheless, still a spectacular talent, and definitely worth the number 34 overall pick. Pick number 35, ended up getting Kalen King in round number 1. You can get Leatu Latu right here. I talked about getting edge rusher earlier. You get Leatu Latu, which fits their physical profile. Maybe, somebody who needs a little bit more development, but Leatu's still a very talented player. I don't know if his game fully translates. I'm very excited to rewatch that Oregon State game because I do value those reps versus Talise, and he had some very translatable reps from what I have seen. So got to put that out there. He could be rising up the boards, but, for the time being, good job for New Orleans. You get an absolute steal. Pick number 36. We have defensive interior. We have edge rusher. Just kidding. We have defensive interior. We have corner drafted. Now, I think the right move for this franchise at this moment would be to maximize your interior offensive line. And I'm going to make we're going to take, unfortunately, Christian Haynes still on the board. We'll go Christian Haynes here because I do think you could go after a center guard guy like Bo Lemmer, but sometimes you got to swing for the fences. My number 10 overall player in the draft. He's just not going to go that high because people don't fully believe in him. Could have been the pick for the Niners, but I think they also value the center versatility a little bit more than the pure upside of Christian Haynes. This is a roster that values speed as well in the offensive line. Honestly, it would have been a great pick regardless. If you really want to, if you feel that butthurt about it, Niners fans, I'd be perfectly fine switching this, and I think Arizona fans wouldn't be too pissed off with Graham Barton there at number 36. Looking at my next guy who is available based on my board, it is Joe Milton, but we're going to skip past Joe Milton for the time being. The next guy available is Kalen Bullock. Yes. We'll see if there's a team that is in the mood for that. At pick number 37, this very well could be a quarterback selection. We got Brock Bowers. Now, J.J. McCarthy could fit this squad to a T. Riley Leonard could too, but we're not going to go back to Duke. We ain't doing that today. We're going to go J.J. McCarthy. We're going to see what can happen with that quarterback position. I think a little bit too much money is tied up with Daniel Jones right now, but we'll see what happens. I'm not fully aware of the contract situation. If JJ's there, that just puts extra emphasis on Daniel to get his head and ass wired together because this team has all the talent in the world. Granted, Evan Neal, has been abysmal at right tackle, which, to be fair, he never was that great at Alabama as a right tackle. But it was worth taking the pick. It's not a busted pick at all because of the fact that it was worth trying out. Now, you'll probably send him to another team and he'll end up being like a top 5 left tackle in the NFL. But still, it was worth taking the shot. Pick number 38. Another team, honestly, Patriots, I'd be calling up the Giants right now and saying, yo, what do you want for Evan Neal? We'll give you a 3rd round pick. And I would do it today. So regardless, we got Bo Nix on this squad. Looking at the tackles who are left available, I'm a really big fan of Tyler Guyton on this squad. He has a ton of feistiness to him. He's an athletic freak, still a bit raw, but this is a guy who could totally work with a mobile offense with Bo Nix behind it. This is the guy who I definitely would want for y'all in round number 2. There's a lot of wide receivers in this class, not a ton of tackles. Pick number 39 for the Vikings. Also quarterbacked now by a new guy in Michael Penix. And for me, I'm going to be looking at these corners right now, looking at who I can feast upon. And I'm a big fan of what Nate Wiggins could bring to the table, but Kamari Lassiter, that speed is undeniable. Josh Newton's going to be a little bit more of a standard, fair, reliable corner. I think he's a little bit athletically limited. I was a big fan of him in the coming to the season, but apparently not as high as some other people in the world. But my next corner is Kamari Lassiter. Triple checking my facts on that, and it is. And I think this is a great value for a team that could also use a little bit of that versatility. And Lewis Cine has a little bit of chemistry with Kamari, so at least you have some old friends coming together there in that secondary. Pick number 40, Joe Alt has joined the squad for the Titans. Now, I think that we could go Nate Wiggins here. That wouldn't be a bad idea. You could go wide receiver for sure. You still have some very good options on the board. I'm trying to see if there's any guys down here that I want to mention. Jacob Cowling is so good, but this is one of the squads where I respect Kyle Phillips. I'm not really going to kick his ass out of here just yet. We're going to go corner here. We're going to go, Josh Newton would be a good one, but we'll go Nate Wiggins for the time being. Pick number 41, we have Cooper DeJean on the squad. Now, running back, quarterback, left tackle, those are the positions I really care about. Javon Foster could be a really good get at this point. PFF's underrating him. A lot of people actually have him as a fringe 1 now. I might wait. Looking at the teams who are in between us, are there any that could look for a left tackle? Could see Washington as a team that could snag him. And Troy Fautanu, I don't like Patrick Paul at all. I'm just going to put my bias out there. It's not even bias, it's my analysis. But Troy Fautanu, in my opinion, is going to be a top-tier interior offensive lineman. See it right below my face. I think Javon Foster is the next left tackle that will go. And I think it's right. It's right to take him right now. He's extremely athletic. He's going to be a day 1 impact. He just needs to be a lot more consistent and learn a little bit more. But David Bakhtiari has just been way too unreliable. So this is the type of guy who I'd want on the squad. Pick number 42 for the Eagles. So this is a team where I might even take Blake Fisher and develop him. You know, there are teams that are also looking for a right tackle. And I don't see him lasting until pick 64. And there are teams that would be in the mood to develop him. Now, he hasn't had the best year on planet Earth, but this is a guy who's perfect to develop for a year. And he fits the offense very well. He is very mobile. He has great length. This is a dude who's worth investing in. So I'm going to go Blake Fisher here because I do think that it's going to be Stoutland's dream to work with a player with the measurables of Blake Fisher. They missed out on DeJuan Jones last year. Don't miss out on Blake Fisher this year. Pick number 43. So we're going to go the edge rusher pick or the corner route. I do think Josh Newton would be nice. Josh Newton would be a very nice corner, too, for this team. We have Shadur Sanders on the squad, for those of y'all who are questioning what we did before. I do think this corner class is relatively thinner, so we are actually going to go Josh Newton, get a true boundary corner, number 2 for the squad. And, you know, at least now you have Daddy Prime who's going to be coming around saying hello and potentially could train up Josh Newton as well. AJ Terrell could be a very good mentor there. Pick number 44 for the Texans. So we got a wide receiver in Malik Neighbors in round number 1. Again, y'all don't need it, but it's always an addition. Now we can get defensive interior. And there's a lot of dudes you can go. Dante Corleone, Tavondre Sweat. Those are the guys who I'm really targeting in on. Tyreek Williams as well. You can't go wrong with any of them. But I do like having this 355-pound wall of meat who can unbelievably long arm offensive linemen in my roster. So I'm going to have Tavondre Sweat be that type of guy. Pick number 45, we ended up drafting Emeka Egbuka earlier. Now the time has come for a safety or a corner, and there are some good ones on the board. I think Nubin's a little bit more enforceful, so we're going to go Tyler Nubin out of Minnesota. Pick number 46. We still have a top 32. We have a couple top 32 players on my board right now. Jermaine Burton, Jacob Cowing, Bo Limmer, Tyler Barron, just to name a couple. Kalen Bullock as well. But some players just don't go. At pick number 46, so we went after, let's double check. I'm forgetting right off the top of my head. Chris Jenkins. Awesome. Now, I think I might be in the mood to just go Kalen Bullock and pair him up with Trevon Merrick back there. I don't think that'd be a bad idea because, you can never go wrong with getting more defensive backs. And that might be the route I go. I think it's the right one. Jeremiah Trotter, such a disappointment, man. I genuinely don't think he's draftable at this point. Linebackers key as well, but there's actually some pretty solid linebackers. Even guys like Curtis Jacobs, he's phenomenal. Cedric Gray as well. There's some guys who are definitely worth taking down the board. Running back as well, you could get the top one in the draft. I'm going to pass on that for the time being. We're going to test it out with Kalen Bullock, top 32 player on my board. Now I can scroll down even more. Pick number 47. So this is a team that might actually take the top linebacker in the class. I don't really see any more tackles being worth it at this point. So there's my little stamp of non-approval on the draft for if you see the offensive lineman go early, it's probably going to be a mock draft from me. I'm going to go Jatavian Sanders here. He had an awful game in the Red River Showdown, but he's somebody who I trust can bounce back. Pick number 48 for the Green Bay Packers. Running backs are still all available, and you really could go any way, shape, or form at this point. Like Trey Benson, he has a little bit of feistiness to him. Blake Corum, Bucky Irving, Marshawn Lloyd, all these dudes are badasses. I'm going to go Trey Benson here just to change it up a little bit, though. Pick number 49, we have the Bengals. Bengals, we went after, what did we do in the first round? We went after Keon Coleman to replace T. Higgins. So no tight end on the board. I think that, offensive tackle, again, if there were one, we'd go after it in a heartbeat. That's not the case. We could go Troy Fautanu and have an interior that could play on the boundary. But, for me, you could look at another safety because Nick Scott, you do have Jordan Battle there, to be fair. I might want to pair up Rukaroro with Myles Murphy, though. And I think I'm going to. The value is just too good. So we'll end up pairing him up there. And again, the athletic pass rushing upside is very similar to Zach Carter. I think it's going to be an effective version of what you have in Zach Carter. Pick number 50 for the Chargers. We have already taken a defensive interior in Leonard Taylor. JT Tuimoloau is still on the board, which is ridiculous. He's a good player, man. People are disrespecting him. I do think running back is going to be a primary need for this team, and Marshawn Lloyd right down the road is one of the best nifty, thrifty, DeAndre Swifty running backs that you can draft in this class, and he is spectacular. So another one of my top 40 players off the board, Rams. I could be in the mood to go after offensive line for y'all. Defensive back, still, there are some dudes who are available. Like safety-wise, Javon Bullard's a really good player, but I feel like he plays too similar a role to Travius Hodges-Tomlinson. You could go James Williams here to be an enforcer, Jaden Hicks as well. Like, there are some good ones. Jediah Barron, I've heard very good things about Jediah Barron, seen him pop off too on tape. For me, I'm going to go after the first linebacker off the board, and that's going to be Danny Stutzman. He's not my linebacker number one. That's technically Junior Colson, but Danny has unbelievable athleticism, and his raw traits are certainly there, but I do think that overall, in the long run, he might be the best linebacker in the class. And this is a team that uses a little and makes a lot out of it. So we'll just put it that way. Pick number 52 for the Brownies. I think this could just be some extra pass rushing upside on the interior of the defensive line, and Tyreek Williams is just too good to pass on. I got to give a shout out to, I think his name is Riley Mills, defensive interior out of Notre Dame. I haven't studied him yet, so I'm not going to include him in this, but it's definitely a name I want to give a shout out to because he's popped off quite a bit. Pick number 53, we've already went defense interior with Mason Smith. Now, another position you could go after an interior offensive lineman at this point for the upside. And given the fact that I have a top 32 player on the board, we're going to go with him. Let's see, who's a player? I want to give a shout out to Javion Cohen. He's going to be my placeholder today because I've kind of been mean to him in the past. We're going to go Bo Limmer out of Arkansas, center/guard out of Arkansas. It's a way to have extra redundancy. You have already Olusegun Oluwatimi, who I'm a big fan of. And then you also have Spencer Burford. I think that you could have a longer-term option at left guard with Bo Limmer and potentially a long-term center option as well. So I think the value there is key. Could have honestly went that way for the Cowboys as well. We went left tackle in the first round. Now looking at the corners available, Kalen Carson's a good pickup. TJ Tampa, very valued pickup at this point. I'm going to go Kalen Carson. Haven't been able to see any all-22 on him, but still a spectacular player. Has earned the respect of many and well worth that second-round selection. Pick number 55 for the Steelers. Linebacker probably is on my mind. I know people keep saying center for this team, and it guts me. It guts me. I don't think that we need it as badly as y'all think we do. And we like to address interior offensive linemen in free agency. I don't really like Cedric Van Pran that much. So we don't need that. I really do like going after these guys like Javon Bullard, who could be a really top tier slot option that could be a boundary corner potentially. Jaden Hicks, James Williams. I've already gone James Williams plenty of times though, so I could change it up for here for sure. We'll go a linebacker. We'll do it. Tommy Eichenberg is very good, but I'm going to go back to Michigan with Junior Colson. Overall, one of the better linebackers. So you guys see I have a cluster of them right here. One of the better linebackers that I have studied in recent memory in just terms of overall balance. He's just a very smart player, high IQ, very solid tackler, just reliable. And that's kind of what we need. We don't need somebody to be a top 5 linebacker. We don't need a Fred Warner. We just need somebody to be consistent. And even Roberts, he's been consistent on our team, but he has so much limited upside to where he can't even cover. I just don't think he's a longer term option, but he's a good guy to fill in on rotation. Junior Colson could be that longer-term option. Pick number 56, another team I would even consider potentially going after a linebacker for. I still got some good wide receivers here. I think A.D. Mitchell is a very good combination. He's a very good complement to what you have there. But more importantly, Xavier Legette's on the board, 6'3", 227, and is the fastest recorded player in college. So, he's a former tight end, South Carolina. You're going to get him the ball after the catch. He's ridiculous. Watch out. He can turn on the jets and just absolutely smoke everybody. There's going to be a unique player that can be added to this receiving core because now you have Dalton Kincaid, who's a unique mover, Xavier Legette, and then just overall, you're just building a team for success. Pick number 57 for the Buccaneers. I'd be in the mood for A.D. Mitchell right here. We went after Chop Robinson in round number 1. A.D. Mitchell is valued at this spot. I think that's worth it because Mike Evans not going to be there forever. A.D. Mitchell doesn't exactly fit that mold perfectly. Not many people do in this class, but he can also fit into that Godwin mold if you need him to. He's going to be a valued bigger receiver. So I do like that. Pick number 58. So we went after a corner in round number 1 in Denzel Burke. Now we can go after interior offensive lineman and Troy Fautanu as an athletic hybrid tackle guard. Could be a massive addition for that offensive line. Pick number 59 for the Ravens. We are going to be going a running back, and we are looking at the ones available. Bucky Irving. They've never valued speed that much. They just value guys who can force missed tackles and can just be a reliable option for 3-4 downs a drive. Or not drive, but 3-4 downs every single sequence of the drive. And I think Bucky Irving is exactly that. Very reliable, very trustworthy. Someone who I'd want on my franchise. Pick number 60. Defensive interior, definitely going to be the guy who I target at this point. You got McKinley Jackson, who's very good here. There's plenty of very talented players in this class. I'm going to go Dante Corleone because the way that he can drive a center back into the quarterback is extremely rare. He just needs to be more consistent with it. This is a team that could totally maximize that potential. Pick number 61. We went after, I believe, a left tackle. Did we not? In round number 1, Jordan Morgan. We did. So at this point, y'all could be in the mood for someone like Javon Bullard to just be a super hybrid guy and just be everywhere. I would love to hear y'all's thoughts on that. I'm really loving Javon Bullard. I am. And I might take him for the 49ers just to say, screw it. You're going to find a place for him because he deserves that respect. He deserves to be taken in this mock draft. I'm going to do it. Feel free to let me know what y'all think. But big fan of what he could potentially be. He's a slot corner, but you can use him as a safety. And he's actually a massive addition in the run game. I'm waiting for more All-22 to come out, but this dude might be a huge riser on my board. From what I've seen, I'm a big fan. Pick number 62 for the Cowboys. For the Niners. So we went after Graham Barton, or if you're mad, Christian Haynes, in the first round. Defensive back is my number 2 position to target. TJ Tampa would be really good value here. Same thing with James Williams, but I don't think the safety position's as much of a need. I'm going to go after a corner. And TJ Tampa is just super reliable. He's been on my stock reports for the past year and a half, just consistently being a solid coverage corner. This is a good team that could maximize the value of that. So TJ Tampa it is. Pick number 63 for the Chiefs. I think you could go Xavier Worthy here. He could be that type of deep threat that y'all are looking for, but he doesn't fit the mold. We already went a wide receiver in round number 1, to be fair. I think Xavier Legette might be more of a fit than Johnny Wilson, but I just love Johnny Wilson. Defensive interior. You still want to get some extra oomph on the interior, and McKinley Jackson is spectacular. He has so much upside at 325 pounds. He moves like he's 300, if not 280. Just hasn't been the most productive, but I would kind of trust that, if Chris Jones stays, McKinley Jackson could be a force to reckon with. Pick number 64, and ending off the mock draft, the Eagles went after Cameron Kinchens in round number 1. God forbid they have all of these amazing edge rushers here. None of these teams need them. BS. JT Tuimoloau should have went in this. Princely should have went in this. Chris Braswell should have went in this. Just saying. I'm going to go Princely because he's a ridiculous talent. JT could have been it too. You can feel free to select whichever edge rusher you like, but the Eagles definitely are going to be looking to get one extra one with BG and Derek Barnett potentially going to be gone. So that is going to be the video. Thank you so much for watching. See y'all on the far side.